Okay, so somewhat along those same lines, in this tsunami of teaching, we can easily just focus on the big things, the big successes, the big victories. You talk about the small things. Well, there are small wins, that we say sometimes celebrate the small wins. What does that look like? And why do you think that's so important as well, since we're talking about planting these little seeds, taking advantage of those little moments? What about the small wins?
So not every day is going to be a huge breakthrough. That's okay.
We
Um,
wish.
those small wins. Right, right. I think about the first time a child memorizes a Bible verse and beams with pride. That's a win. When one of your students chooses kindness instead of reacting, that's a win. When a child finally understands something academically, that is God working. Celebrate those small steps. Say, look what God is doing in you, and help your students to recognize God's presence in their life. Um, those small wins matter because God grows big things from small obedience. Um, the small wins are the mile markers along the way, and we need to celebrate each mile in that 26-mile race.
Yeah, that's great. I like that you pointed out to recognize it and be encouraged, because sometimes, like as teachers, we are looking for those big aha moments, and we get to the end of the day and we didn't realize how many little things we skipped over, and we need to hang on to those, especially sometimes we really, really need to hang on to those little things. So in your opening story, I heard a theme, and that was relationships. So I doubt there's a listener with us today who would disagree with me saying that relationships are vital in the classroom. They're vital in the school in general. But again, back to that busyness and in the responsibilities and all the expectations, relationships can kind of take a hit, or at least kind of take a back seat. Talk with us a little bit about that. You are obviously a very relational person. Even just being in your school, you're constantly relating those around you. It's not just get it done. You're a relationship person. Relationships seem to play a huge role since we're talking about planting seeds. So what are your thoughts on how teachers can build those connections and do that intentionally? Where do they start?
Yeah, because sometimes our day, we have a busy day. We know we've got all these tasks to do and lessons to teach, but it can be simple. Ask about a child's weekend. Get to know your students. Notice when they seem off and ask about that. Follow up when they've had a tough day. In my life, the people who impacted me the most were the ones who showed up consistently and cared. And it's presence over perfection. Just those consistent, small, intentional connections that build trust, and then trust opens hearts to the gospel. So model what relationships and healthy friendships look like. Friendships will help determine the trajectory of a child's life. So, model what good friendships look like. Friends encourage each other, inspire each other. And again, just take advantage of those small moments to ask about their day and follow up with them if they've had a hard day.
Okay, so we talked about all these different ways that we can plant, but we all know what it's like to plant and water and plant and water, and you just don't see the growth. You don't see the fruit, and you definitely don't see the fully grown tree. It could just be downright discouraging, and especially when the end of the year comes and you feel like you're passing along the student and all your work to the next teacher without really walking away feeling like you've seen much for all that you've invested. How do you encourage teachers who just really aren't seeing a lot of fruit at the moment? What do you do for them?
I think that's completely normal. It's normal to be discouraged when you don't see like you're seeing fruit right away. I know there's been a lot of times over the years where I feel that way, especially when you're having a rough day. Maybe your students aren't listening, or maybe you have that parent that's upset with you, and everything just feels hard. But Galatians 6:9 reminds us that in due season we'll reap if we faint not. And due season means there's going to be time involved, time between planting and harvesting. Sometimes God works slowly and faithfully, and it's not our job to produce the results. It's our job to be faithful with the opportunities that He gives us. And there's going to be times where we don't see that impact until years later. Sometimes maybe not even until eternity, but God sees. I even think of people that I graduated with and went to high school with at Christian school, and some of them who got in trouble a lot, but now are serving the Lord in ministry. And I'm sure some of our teachers were surprised at what they became. So when you don't see the results, just think about those small wins. And remember the principle of the farmer. You're going to reap what you sow. You'll reap after you sow, and you'll reap more than you sow. You just might not see it right away.
Wow. Yeah, that's so practical. All right. So we talked a lot about planting. We've talked about living before our students. We talked about reaching out, celebrating the small wins along the way, and even about staying encouraged, even in those seasons of not seeing much fruit. As we wrap up this episode, I wonder if I can ask you one more question. If you could leave teachers one final encouragement. So, we're into second semester. It's kind of, the dreary time of the year. There's not a lot of vacations or holidays. And, sometimes the weather's cold and everything's just kind of dreary. You've offered a lot of encouragement, say a lot of challenge to be faithful and stay in there. How would you wrap it all up in one final encouragement for them today?
I guess I'd say remember that what you're doing matters, and it matters far more than you realize. You don't know how God is going to use the kids sitting in front of you today. Um, I'm sure that Sunday school teacher and the bus driver that my mom had, they never got to live to see that harvest. They didn't know who she was going to grow up to be. I think of my Uncle Jim. He got sent home from church for being rough in Sunday school. I'm sure those Sunday school teachers did not realize that he would grow up to serve the Lord, become a pastor, and impact other people. So those students in front of you, you don't know how God is going to use them. I'm here today and I'm saved and serving and leading and getting to watch another generation of children grow in Christ because of someone that invested years ago. And when you impact one child, you're going to impact everyone that they touch later in life as well. So keep showing up, keep loving, keep planting seeds. God is going to do more in your ordinary faithfulness than you will ever see this side of eternity. And then always remember that someone else might need encouragement. Be an encouragement to someone else. And encouragement is that gift that's going to keep people believing.
Enjoyed this short clip? That was just a sneak peek into a full episode on the Teacher Edition podcast. We are passionate about supporting Christian educators like you. Looking for more inspiration and practical strategies you could use today? Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts. Brought to you by BJU Press.